Right, bonjour, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. How is everyone doing? Are we all winning? Are we all living the proverbial dream? Good morning, we're so back. Came to Florida at good times, already starting to cook for the summer. Yeah, I think we managed, the highest temperature we had I think was 33, 32 maybe? And I think me and my daughter were melting. Because we were the ones there at that point. My wife sadly wasn't with us. What's up, Charlie? Thriving. Lovely. Love to hear it. Yeah, load time frame chop suey. I must admit this week has been a little bit on the dull side. I started off by recording an outlook for the group, which apparently about 30 seconds in my microphone fucked up. So if I go exceptionally quiet this stream, it's likely that my mic's just broken again. So if you'd be so kind as to let me know, particularly if I'm whizzing around on this and going da-da-da-da-da, I'm pointing out stuff and doing this, but you can't hear me, chances are my mic's fucked again. We'll see. It's because it's like above 10 degrees in the UK. Sounds good? Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, it's been a bit of a quiet week this week. But yeah, let's jump into some markets. Let's start off by shouting out Destro Network, or Desync, for sponsoring the stream, because they are absolute legends, and the plan remains the same as pretty much every other week. I'd like to see, generally on coins like this, consolidation, reclaim levels, and then off we go, right? All the selling and low time frame chop, the indecision, lack of trend, accumulation range, whatever you want to call it, happening for a period of time. And then as it starts moving up on momentum, I think we'll get a decent run out of it. But we're not there yet, not really. It's being pretty hindered by this 0.15 level. But as soon as we get above it, I'm sure we'll start seeing some fireworks. I'm hoping we'll start seeing some fireworks for the rest of the market. So, my personal bias is I'm a little bit flip-floppy at this level. I'm not going to lie. I haven't got the outstanding conviction that I had way back here when I was publicly buying tops, in this little region, buying a Bitcoin at a time and going, look, it's definitely going higher, and then obviously Trump wins and we go. Had pretty good conviction around here. Don't have the same conviction around here to sort of bullish continuation. But I have said for a long, long, long time that between that 91, 92 area, if I just go to a fresh chart, right, and we look at this, for me, the previous consolidation support, so everything around here, all of this price action, this support here, and where price is, bouncing pretty consistently, I kind of have to respect that we've reclaimed that. Now, there's various other views. I talked to a few other people who use, yearly open reclaims and all that kind of stuff, and that is kind of confluent with it if you think about, way back here. I mean, a yearly open somewhere in this drop down here. Where is it? It's yeah, it's here. So that's kind of a yearly open as well. There's a bit of confluence that we've kind of pushed up from this, however many months this is, 4-month downtrend, broken up and started ripping. I also think that a lot of people, like myself, kind of want this pullback trade. So I am in a spot position on BTC from here. This trade here, and I'm also looking to play the other half of it from down here. Now the rationale, I'll just kind of go back to this view. The rationale is we've had this strong move up. Alts have responded really, really well. The last couple of weeks, I'd say. Yeah, since the 7th, which obviously I was on holiday for a large part of this, so I couldn't trade for this or wherever it was. But anyway, my excuses aside, that period has been really, really good for altcoins, and generally, we're starting to feel the cool down of that now, I think. The rotations are getting a little bit weaker, not as many, massive outstanding moves. Obviously, we had Pengu this week, but you start kind of coming into the last couple of days, and even Fartcoin is struggling a little bit, which has been, my high beta pick for, a couple of weeks now. I think, to me, a kind of fake out here, and that play out that we looked at before, so tag the daily EMA down here and get that higher low in terms of market structure, we want to form something like this, so a trending market structure to the upside. Like that would be the absolute baby pips, perfect kind of continuation play. And because of that, that's part of the reason why I think we don't get it. So that's half the reason why I'm getting some exposure here. What am I doing? You know, I'm getting some exposure here, some exposure there, so my average would be there. And then my invalidation is basically anywhere down here. So we come back to this consolidation. You know, the kind of theory for this being, you know, a kind of push up to start a fresh uptrend goes out the window, I think. Because as soon as we tag here, unless it's a really, really, you know, vicious move up, then well, I think we'll just reset back into the range, go to the range lows at minimum, and then perhaps this is where we establish a base. Or from a higher time frame perspective, you know, it's kind of the trend is over, right? You zoom out of all of those little squiggles, you come back to the simple EMA, and if that happens, we'll lose it, and it'll start pointing down, and that's kind of like end of cycle. Now, how low we go after that, who knows? Recession, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into like macro larpy bullshit because frankly, I don't give a shit. I'm just trading the chart that's in front of me. And, you know, this is kind of, if it went like this and dropped back a bit, that's kind of a bearish retest into a form of consolidation and a failure to accept back in that form of value. So that's kind of how everything adds up to my trade plan. Hopefully that's pretty clear. You know, pretty simple. I'm a pretty simple trader. I don't really see the need to massively overcomplicate it. If we start looking at momentum and stuff like that, there's not really anything like major going on. You know, I'll accept the weekly is starting to kind of push up from that 50 level, and then like from a daily perspective, you know, we've got the first kind of taps of the overbought region, but no kind of major divergences or anything like that to worry about. Do you know what I mean? There's not like something like this, which is, you know, making me scared to kind of be long into this. So really, that's it. That's it for BTC. Any questions? Or pretty fucking simple? I like to keep it simple. I've even started a Fartcoin trading account, which is up like 35-40% maybe. Just purely trading Fartcoin intraday. Simple, Charlie, thank you. Yeah, I mean, if you start like zooming out, and particularly if you look at like the monthly, you know, this is an exceptional parabolic curve in terms of, you know, run up, and obviously all that was fueled by COVID, money printing, blah, 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 blah. But you look at this, it's kind of similar. You look at this, it's kind of similar. You look at this, and it's like, well, is this kind of just the institutional adoption phase of crypto? And is this like market structure actually just kind of what we have to get used to instead of like the big, like fucking 50%, you know, completely illiquid, probably manipulated by the likes of FTX, you know, dog shit candle? Because, you know, the big boys and girls have come to our pond now, and they're in our pond, whether we like it or not. And it's kind of a little bit done. So I'm kind of thinking that if you zoom out, you kind of think more like a boomer. If this was your, you know, why am I on Poloniex? Whatever. You know, think more like a boomer who's targeting, you know, 5 to 10% annual returns. You get 10%, you're fucking more than happy, yeah? Like, this chart is still pretty beautiful. And most boomers use simple EMAs, moving averages of some description, to kind of say, is it a bullish or bearish market, right? And everything about this just screams bullish. And even when you start going to lower time frames, like 2 weekly or weekly, you know, it's the same thing, really. So is it a kind of disgusting market to get long on? No, I don't think so. And then the other thing that's kind of, or a couple of things that are kind of supporting my bullishness, I guess, bullish at the highs, you know, classic, is you got MSTR, you know, not looking particularly terrible. So MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor's Big Dick Corp, who's buying all the Bitcoin ever so slowly. Okay, you've got this pushing out. You know, not particularly bullish, obviously, yet, but we had that big parabolic run after Trump's election, which failed. Your first kind of break of diagonals, first real break of market structure in terms of this is a series of lower lows, lower highs. This is the first kind of higher high that we're printing, right? So you start thinking about it like that. Structural trend shift, reclaim of a big pivot, blah, blah, blah. So all kind of signs ticking bullish. The other thing is one that we went over on stream a long time ago, which is Bitcoin dominance. So the percentage of the total crypto market's market cap that is Bitcoin. And what this is essentially telling you for kind of newer people to this chart is that, you know, if Bitcoin was 50% of the entire market, right? I suppose the way to think of it is like a pie chart, right? Bitcoin over here and altcoins over there. When we were down here, Bitcoin was 50% of the market, let's do BTC, and altcoins were 50%. But now, you know, Bitcoin is 64%. It's not an entirely accurate representation of like all the on-chain shitters. What it's telling you is that Bitcoin is growing in terms of market cap, and alts are going down in terms of total market cap. Now that could be for a number of reasons. It could be because Bitcoin is absolutely ripping and going up. It could be because altcoins are massively going down, or it could just be that altcoins aren't going up as much as BTC, which is kind of the situation we're in at the moment, right? Not too many alts are just shitting the bed and going down completely, but Bitcoin is kind of doing this while very few alts really are massively outperforming it, right? And most alts are dramatically down from their, you know, October, November, December highs of last year. So all of that kind of put together tells you, or tells me, that it's Bitcoin season, yeah, and I don't think we can kind of ignore that. There are some alts that are going to be outperformers, and we'll kind of come on to those, and we'll come on to selecting those and what I use, and you will know that, you know, how I use Spaghetti and all that kind of stuff, but we'll go into a little bit more detail on that. But yeah, that's why I'm in my Bitcoin position, right? Good morning, Pablo K. So any questions on that? Any counterpoints? I'm quite up for a bit of debate tonight. So if someone wants to tell me I'm a fucking idiot, I'd welcome it. Good evening, Ultimate 1209. We'll just kind of pause there. Coke or Pepsi? Coke. 100%. Great question. Everyone comes in for crypto and stays for the choices of beverage. Ruby or Sapphire? That's easy. Ruby. Obviously. Unless it's Pokemon, in which case it's Sapphire. Tea or coffee? Coffee. Nescafe Gold Blend. Right. Enough food-based questions. I actually kind of meant market questions. But we'll take it. Solar ETH. Well, we've actually had... We can come on to a bit of a discussion about ETH, if you like. Because my entire fucking timeline is massively bullish ETH. And I feel like everyone's going to get baited in again. And I've talked about this in terms of like a, you know, potential position to take. But for me, it's just such a weak and shit asset. I kind of can't justify it, right? Like, you look at Ethereum and you look at like ETH BTC, and you might as well just be trading BTC. You know, if this starts breaking out, right, which would be great, don't get me wrong, like, please don't think I'm a super bear on ETH. It would be good for all of our bags, right? ETH starts running. Everything will be running if ETH starts running. And that's kind of my worry, right? Is if ETH's running, everything will run, and if everything runs, most things will outperform ETH. But we'll kind of get onto that. If we start getting something like that, it'd be great. But I think ETC will do the massive... Holy shit, what the hell happened there? Trade complete, lads. What the fuck? Hello? Yeah. Alright. Yeah, so my point was gonna be that when ETH pumps, ETC scam pumps. Is that a trading view bug or what? Fucking 2x'd. No. I might have to tweet that one, boys and girls. Just for the lols. Yeah, 0 word on ETC. Unless you've tuned into my streams or been in the Paragon group, because I keep saying about ETC. And honestly, ETC is the one for me that, like, if you want to be long ETH, long ETC instead. So we used to do the proxy and beta plays all the time, right? It used to be very much like if FTT was pumping, go long BNB. There was a whole phase actually where the kind of in-play meta was chase the basket and do the kind of, if it was an RWA coin, go along the next RWA coin. I think that was about 2020, sometime in 2020, when it was like, well, BNB's pumping, therefore I should buy a load of FTT. I don't know, it was like an incredible bull market, whatever, but you tended to get that rotation. But ETC tends to move like this, basically. It rips high when ETH strong, like rips. Just slaughters the pigs in the book. Like, for me, it's harder to get filled on it, harder to get big positions on it, and obviously the liquidity on ETH is absolutely insane. But, yeah. I mean, that's got to be a trading view bug, right? Charlie, you have some superpowers? Yeah. Yeah, so that's fucking mental. Kind of ruined my flow. But yeah, I'm not like super bullish ETH. I want it to break out, don't get me wrong, like in this trade, I'm not in, etc. But if I like delete this, I was looking at this morning and going like, do I want to long this? And I was like, this breakout out here, it's not too bad, but ETH just has this like perpetual, and it was this one this morning. ETH just has this like perpetual way of disappointing me, and I can't get too excited about it. When, on a single Farcoin rotation, I can get anywhere between 5 and like 15, maybe even 20%. Like, I doubt ETH is going to rip that high. I really want it to, for everyone else's sake, and for the wider market's sake, right? But, yeah. I'm not holding my breath. I think it's a bug. Yeah. Isn't Bitcoin slow? Grind up back to 95, which hasn't really been fueled by any kind of major narrative thing, but rather holding up well compared to SPX, etc. A good sign to further upside. Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like, I've heard various different views, right? One is it's a relatively low volume grind up. 2, so that's a negative. 2, there's kind of the spot premium to perpetuals, so negative funding essentially, which is a good thing. Typically, then there's sailors running out of money, which is a bad thing. So you kind of keep going, like ebbing and flowing between this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, and you go, well, how do I kind of weigh the scales with what's good and what's bad, or whichever way around I drew them? Let's call this good, let's call this bad. How do I weigh this and versus that? And there's always going to be information that I don't have kind of on my scales to say, well, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about the Trump tariffs, which are bad, obviously. I kind of forgot about this, which is good, the potential US government adding it into like their bit bonds or whatever they're calling it. There's all this stuff that you're never going to know the weight of these scales, and you're never going to know how much is on either side, right? There'll be times when a news event comes out and like the XRP news, I keep going back to this one, but when the SEC kind of said, yep, XRP are fine. The good news there was just like, right, that is so fucking heavy, short term, that I know that there's a trade there, and I know it's going to go like that. And we'll come on to XRP. And, it went 4% up and then pulled back a bit, and I was like, nah, this isn't a 4% move. Bosh, off it went. So, there are times where you don't necessarily have an information edge against the market, but you can kind of guess the follow-through of that information flow. But on a day-to-day basis, the best thing you've got, in my opinion, is this. It's the fucking chart, right? And like, even now, right, we're looking at this. We're looking at this kind of run up to these highs. This is a pretty good attempt, right? Even a lower time frame. We're looking at the hourly. We're looking at consistent attempts to break this resistance of 95, where you think there are sellers here, right? There are sellers consistently selling between 95.2 and 95.6, yeah? But if they're selling there, why wouldn't they just wait a couple of days? You'll probably be able to sell it for 100k. And if we hit 100k again, you'll probably be able to sell it for 102 because momentum will work to the upside. You know, you've got 1 attempt, 2 attempts, 3 attempts, 4 attempts. This is the 5th attempt at breaking through this level whilst we're continually printing a series of higher lows, which means that buyers were willing to buy at 92.8, then they were willing to step in at 93.6, then they were willing to pay 94. You know, this is chasing. This is chasing the price up, which is kind of going back to the earlier point of I don't think necessarily people get that pullback that they wanted. And like even now, we've got like a low time frame bias, yeah. So delete all of that. Let's take that and kind of go back to like the real simple view. If we want to lose that bias, we've actually got a really simple plan now. We go, well, if this changes, if I lose my meme diagonal, or if we start printing something like that, then I'm outsies. You know, I can say if I want to be really aggressive, we have to kind of keep this momentum. You know, okay, we can keep a little bit more in terms of something like this. You know, we don't want to lose this little local range and consolidation, basically. But, you know, we've now got a much tighter invalidation to our thought process. Does that all make sense? I think we've done a reasonable job of assessing the market there. Do you also use the Agate template? No, not really. I used to. What I found was I used to get information overload, and I used to try and see, like, you know, there are people in this industry that analyze flow really, really well. Magus is probably the best at it that I know. Doc does it well, but obviously learned from Magus, and Magus's stuff is, you know, beyond. He uses it exceptionally well. And for the way that I trade, it's predominantly altcoin rotations and relative strength and momentum. I didn't really need it, right? And I was trying to implement it and put it into my system, and it just became overly complex. And because it became overly complex, and I was kind of comfortable already, I couldn't get it to kind of fit in without ending up with like 20 different variables that I needed to compute to say whether I should enter a trade or not, which for me was just too much. And I think this is why, you know, when people say trading's an art form, I really like that kind of view of things, because, you know, what's important to one person isn't important to someone else. Like, I don't give a fuck about Monday opens and weekly opens and closes and all that kind of stuff. But you ask people like XO or SE, like, you know, they look at that all the time. Fartcoin looks like it's coiling. I'll have a look at Fartcoin in a sec, because that's pretty much been my life, Fartcoin. So no, so don't use the Agate template. Have you given Kiyotaka a try? Not as good as Trading Light, but not as bad alternative. No. No, sorry, mate. I was just saying, like, I'm not really an order flow guy. I've traded using it, particularly when it was like the Bitcoin meta of when was it, like 2023, when it was, you know, very low vol and everything was dull as dishwater, and like none of the alts were really moving and all that kind of stuff, and it was just like a intraday Bitcoin market. But really, I just prefer the wonders of spaghetti. Whereabouts in the UK are you from? Are you southern? Nice try, IRS, but I'm actually French, so I will pay my taxes in France, if you don't mind. Out of context, sound crazy. Fartcoin has been my life. Yeah, it is pretty depressing. Like, you know, I tweeted the other day that like I'm a professional Fartcoin trader now. Like, that's kind of my job. You know, when you kind of say to people like, what do you do every day? Oh, I look at a Fartcoin chart. Excuse me? Like, I'm coming up on 40. You know, I'll be 40. I'm closer to 40 than I am 30. And I look at Fartcoin. What the fuck have I done wrong with my life? Do you know what I mean? I'm joking. But, yeah, it's pretty fucking wild. I used to be a respected member of the community, and now... what have we got? What have we got? Fartcoin. So let's go on to Farcoin. So let's kind of think this through. Let's like look at it the way that I look at it, and I'll show you how I see the market, right? So why am I on Spaghetti? So let's zoom out of Spaghetti and let's just remind ourselves, because there's newer people in the chat, what the fuck Spaghetti is. Yeah. So Spaghetti, or relative strength, you know, it's called Spaghetti because it's all these wiggly lines. It looks like shit, but people kind of get used to my colourful purple charts and everything. It's the relative performance of all these coins, all these different pieces of shit that I've selected since whatever point we're focusing on, and currently that is Valentine's Day. Lovely. Didn't even buy my wife a card this year for Valentine's Day. There you go, there's a tidbit for you all. 3rd of February. Bum. Right, let's go back to the highs. And this green bit is the pivot. So we are comparing it all to Bitcoin, which is in the middle and selected up here. So the relative performance of all of this basket of altcoins versus Bitcoin since the top, which I'm now filtering on back here because that's where the green bit is. You know, everything got fucked. Put it bluntly. Everything got really, really shafted. So, yeah. Let's be blunt. Not the best start to the year, eh? But anyway, let's start looking at since the kind of local low, which I'll go into the 12-hour chart and we'll find it because it was when I was on holiday naturally and I couldn't actually trade because Burgerland wouldn't let me on it. You know, we've got some very different kettles of fish in terms of altcoins, right? We've got like tier 1 altcoins, which are up here. We've got tier 2 altcoins, which is basically anything that's outperforming Bitcoin. And then we've got the absolute trash tier down here. So anything that has underperformed Bitcoin, bearing in mind you run the liquidity risk, you can't get filled on positions particularly well, there's probably a load of people with massive inventories ready to dump on your heads. It just makes them really not worth the risk, right? Even anything like up to here, where, you know, it's double the return for that kind of extended period. Is it worth the risk? Yeah, probably just about. But certainly anything that's like 10% more, like all of that's trash. So yeah, what are we looking for? We're looking for structural outperformance. And there's one coin there that is massively outperforming everything, yeah? Again, this is my list. Yes, there's probably some of your dogshit trash that's kind of not included here, but this is my list. And Farcoin, like you said, looks like, even just looking at this chart, kind of looks like it's ready to go again, right? Had a pretty decent pullback. Let's have a beep. What am I doing? Yeah, had a pretty decent pullback from the highs, but it is by far the coin that is massively outperforming the rest of them. That's why I keep getting drawn back to it, right? So that's kind of asset selection. Now we've got a high time frame bias. What we need to do is make sure that the low time frame, this rotation, is supporting that. So I'm actually going to go. So you would have seen me sort of go into 15-minute, and there's not really too much. I'm actually going to go to like 5-minute again, not too much. Kind of see Farcoin there, but I'm going to go 1 minute because there's a rotation start here. Yeah. And what I want to see is what's decent, what's good, what's kind of doing well, what's outperforming, what's underperforming. And by the looks of it, even on this latest rotation, which is a 15-second chart, it's our boy Farcoin. So it's a Dip Wheeler world, yeah. Let me know when you want to run something on the 72 Monk. How do you know about that? What the fuck? My brother. Just you can boost me if you want while I'm AFK. But yeah, looking at Farcoin. So what are we going on for Farcoin next? So talked about this. Did I talk about this? Maybe I talked about this in the group yesterday. So let's go back. The last trade I did was a failure, but the one before that was this, which was literally, I think it was target 2 there. Maybe the target 2 was like here. I think I sold it there because I was trying to trend follow it for a while, which you'll see is kind of confluent with losing meme diagonal and basically losing the EMA, but on, I think it was the 30-minute chart. That wasn't even that wide, it was like that. So that was the trade. That played out really nicely. I then did it again over here, kind of expecting it to play out again, like target 1 was up here, but it got cucked and failed. I think it was there, maybe it was there, I don't know, wherever it was, who cares. This is kind of latest attempt at doing that and ripping it a new one, so to speak. Excuse the pun, it was very much intended. But look, we've got, let's delete all this stuff and let's just start again for the benefit of everyone here. We've got downtrend, very simple downtrend. We've got a little break on relative strength. We've got that move up, and we've got higher time frame. Let's have a look. We've essentially got like this little range, like here. Maybe it's a bit more like that. Let's go. Let's look at an hourly chart. Yeah, that's kind of fits reasonably well. But either way, if you sorry, I was going to go range detection. I was going to go fixed range volume profile and do it for this. So what this is doing is it's just doing a volume profile for this range that I've selected, right? And volume profile just tells you at what price volume was transacted, yeah? The idea being that like the point of control, which is this bit, the bit that where the most volume is transacted, is kind of the way I think of it. It's like this is the big battle for whether we are bullish or bearish, right? And whether we're going to go up or down. And this is where like value kind of is, because this is where most people are willing to buy and sell and participate. Yeah, I'm sure other people have different views of that. But if we're holding above value, it means that we're likely in a bullish market, right? Or we're in locally bullish conditions. If we're coming back to test value, we really want to hope for a bounce, and that can be a good place to get long. So, and if we lose that, then that's kind of a good place to cut and change your bias potentially. But the way that we've drawn this is actually okay, because if we look at this, and we look at like the value areas, which is 70% of the volume, it's, you can tell I don't use this very often, right? Which is like 70% of the volume was transacted where it's not, where it's not, what am I trying to say? Where it's translucent. So where it's translucent, that's where 30% of the volume was, sorry. And the 70% is in here, where it's kind of thick and opaque. Is that the right word? So it tells you that this is like the point that where, this is like the local range, and this is where we're kind of fighting for that value, and we're fighting to break out either side, to be honest, yeah? So now, this is the kind of next attempt on Fartcoin to like break out and run. And the reason that I think that this one might run, like now from here, is that, can I delete this bitch? There we go. Is that, we've had a few attempts to break out, 1, 2, 3, this will be the fourth. So, could this be the one? Maybe. It's got some relative strength on rotations, as is, fairly normal. And yeah, it's one of the better altcoins to be long. So that's kind of it, really. Update Bert, yeah. Been following you so long, mate. We even played together last year. Sad you forgot me. No, I remember you, mate. It was just I was playing my 72 Monk the other day, and I was like, oh my god, are you like from Jazz's stream or something? But no, I do remember you, brother. What do I mean by rotations? So a rotation is price. Well, look at this, right? So it depends what time frame you're on. So what I'll do is I'll do this a little bit differently. Why is it being a bitch? Oh, it's because I got on traditional, even though it says it's not. Brilliant. So, who here knows what a Renko chart is? Does anyone know what a Renko chart is and does? You can potentially guess from the looks of this. CBS special. Based on price movement, not time, innit? Yes. Good for trends, I see. Yes. Doesn't that shatter the noise to determine whether it's red or green candle by majority? Yes. Kind of. Kind of. It's not by majority. It's based on where it tags. So there's two ways that you can calculate it. So there's an ATR, which is an average true range, which just is based on the range of values. And there's traditional, which is you specify a price. So if I change it to traditional, for example, what it will do, if for every, let's just do 0.01. So for every penny that price moves, so if it starts off at 0.01 and it goes to 0.02, it will print a box. If it goes to 0.02 to 0.03, great, tags 0.03. If it goes back to 0.02, well then it won't print a box, but if it goes back to 0.01, it will print a box. So, you know, in price action, you'll get like all of this, but in Renko, you'll kind of just get a couple of pretty blocks, right? And that's it. You know, you can see that we get really nice rotations on Fartcoin, you know, and this is like 0.1. So this is like pennies, yeah? So every penny is moving. And a rotation, like from any perspective, is, in my mind, the market moves from lows to highs to lows to highs to lows to highs to lows to highs, right? Uptrend, downtrend. Like it changes here because we get a lower high there, yeah? So hopefully you can all kind of see that. And like for me, one of these is a rotation. It can start here and end here. It can start here and end here, or it can start here and end there, right? It doesn't really matter how you view it, but it's, the market never or rarely just does that, yeah? There's usually pullbacks along the way, there's plenty of trading opportunities, blah, blah, blah. And that's the thing that most people get stuck in their minds, that there's never going to be another opportunity. Fuck me. It goes like this, oh my god, I've missed it, I might as well long and buy here because it's going to go up there. And then you get ass fucked, and then it kind of carries on, right? You always get the opportunities. That's a rotation. And for me, low time frame rotations, when I'm trading like on an intraday basis, and I'm trying to be really aggressive with my entries and exits, you know, a rotation can last anywhere between 10, 15, 20 minutes to a couple of hours. It depends. It depends how fast the market's going. So there's no like time set on it. It's much better to think of it in terms of price and rotations, which is why Renko is quite good for it. And if I'm not actually going to use traditional, I'm going to use ATR because ATR is a little bit better, and it's, you know, 14 length ATR. So if we start like go down to like the 3-minute chart, you know, quite a lot of rotational opportunity. But yeah, you start looking at it like this, and you go, well, you know, there's a reasonable amount. Actually, a bit more up there than I would have liked, but you know, you start using it to draw support and resistance essentially, and looking at it and going, well, you know, reasonably, if we can start breaking above here, it looks like we'll start breaking out, particularly as we're in a strong trend, which we've attempted to break out of before, you know, a few times. And if we can actually build up that momentum and build up that strength with relative strength backing it up, then it looks good. Called Renko? Yeah, so this is just a chart type. So you've got, you know, your standard like line charts, which I'm imagining people are familiar with. You've got your standard, you know, candles, like they're the main ones, those two. Then you've got various different ones like volume candles, high lows, blah, blah, blah. But Renko's is one. You know, the cheat code, that if anyone wants to ever sell any indicators, it's Heikin-Ashi, because this just makes pretty much any chart and any indicator look good. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, look, these are all, yeah, look at my indicator. You fucking sell that for millions because people are retarded. I'm not even joking. You mistakenly used Renko. Yeah, it's it's really good in my opinion, and it really does shut down the noise. And if you start thinking about it in terms of like, do I want to be bearish this asset? Like, okay, it's a bit of noise. Like here, it's probably a reasonable view. You know, do I want to be really trying to like short something that's starting to look pretty redonkulous in terms of uptrend? You know, unless you've got some price action that says there's a massive div, or you've got some relative weakness or something like that, I'd stay away from it. But anyway, kind of let's go back to like focusing on Fartcoin, yeah, and let's see if we can actually force something here, because if I can get you all to ape, you know, right at the highs into resistance, we might be able to break this thing out live on stream. No, I'm joking. This is obviously for educational purposes only. Does not constitute financial advice. Don't sue me. I'm too pretty for jail. But yeah. Oh, just smashed my head into the microphone. But you know, if we start seeing this breaking out, I might add some fuel to the fire myself on my little degenerate Fartcoin account, and try and play this rotation for two reasons. One, it's very high beta already, and two, as soon as it starts moving, I think it does go. I think it does put that next leg in, and you know, we go up to like 130, 150, something like that, right? Because it is one of the only decent things moving in the market. Black collar jail for sure. Cool. Cheers, lads. Let's maybe veer away from the putting Charlie in jail conversation, yeah? Any edge on spotting distribution versus accumulation after a pump? Both have momentum slowdown. Yeah, I don't have a clean answer for you, because it is often very, very, very difficult. The way I treat ranges is often very similar, though. So you usually get a strong pump, and then you get, you know, a range established, and obviously it's not pre-established, it kind of establishes itself. So you get something like this, and then you get a breakout sweeping these former highs, and then it reclaims and typically, or sorry, re-enters the range. And when it re-enters, that's when I get really nervous, and I'm like, right now, this is the slowdown, this is the kind of fresh attempt at a high and a breakout and a continuation. Fails, gets to the range high, comes back into the range, will typically, in my opinion, get to the range low. And then when you've got this low as well, you've got something to kind of benchmark it against and establish like a range low. So range reclaims, I love, right? That's great. I was actually looking at range reclaims this morning on Fartcoin. So I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, which I'm not sure my family thanked me for, but you know, I was looking at this, right? And all I was looking at was this little range reclaim here. Because this, like, bearing in mind, obviously we didn't have, like, the future price action. So we didn't have any of this, yeah? I had none of this. I was looking at this range here and going, well, this is a pretty strong move down, yeah? This is kind of like an attempt to break out of this range. This is, you know, support, very clean support through here. Support, support, support. A nice structure in terms of, zoom in a little bit. Let's just redo that little structure bit because that's quite a nice example. Redo. So, you know, you've got consistent lower highs and then the final push lower low. And then all I was looking for, using the same principle that we talked about earlier, of, you know, this is, you know, this is kind of your fixed range, right? This is your little range here, yeah? Well, we now reclaim that after a pretty extreme move. And, you know, sometimes I use actual volume as well. And, you know, particularly when I'm looking at Bybit. Okay, that wasn't too bad. You know, it was a kind of, not an extreme like, say, this, or this. But it was at least a decent kind of spike. And then you've got the confluence of, well, okay, there's a bit of a strong move. We've reclaimed the range. Bosh, there's a nice little rotation. So yeah, bringing that back to spotting accumulation or distribution, you know, I try not to think of it like that necessarily. Well, we were looking at Bitcoin way back here. You know, this kind of, this range up here. And we looked at like this range and took a short at like 105. Let's have a little bit more of a zoom in. Yeah, the short was up here because we attempted to break out so many times and failed. So again, strong move, sweep the former highs, come back, attempt to break out, and absolutely fail. Yeah. So it was like up here, the 105 short. Yeah. And typically it's strong move, lower high afterwards. Get on the short side there. But like, was this accumulation or reaccumulation rather? Because you can't really have accumulation at the highs, can you? Or distribution. I mean, you can use for coffee and schematics and stuff like that, and go in for all that, which I don't particularly do unless I'm doing some engagement bait tweets on Twitter. To be honest with you. Or, as you said, you correctly say, do you just look at momentum? And that's kind of what I do. Like, I don't necessarily know where it's going to be, whether it's going to go up here or go there, especially once it starts ranging. But what I can do pretty well is say that this is starting to range, and I think this is going to start to range, yeah? So when I get to that point, like, and go, okay, well, it's ranging, it's, you know, lost momentum. Sorry, I'm just gonna put thingy back on the old music. Then I can decide what I want to do. Do I want to hold these longs? Do I want to hold these spot positions? What do I want to do with it? You know, that I can react to. I don't need to guess whether it's accumulation or distribution. I can just trade it like the range that it is. And in my mind, there's two markets. There's a ranging market and a trending market, and it's pretty easy to see which one's which. But even if you're just looking at just simple EMAs, distance from EMAs, strength and size of, you know, awesome oscillator, extremes in terms of RSI, divergences, you know, put all those things together, percentage of altcoins outperforming Bitcoin on a high time frame or a low time frame rotation, right? Like, yeah, there's so much. So does all that makes sense? Barnard Hitber. I don't feel like I've kind of given you a this is what you do, but I think what I have given you is this is how I see it. And this is kind of how I, you know, do it for the market. I think the fake out as a tell is useful. Yeah, I think that's what I try and do, right? CVD looks shite though, mate. Yeah. But I don't really use CVD, so I don't care. That makes sense. Thanks, mate. You're welcome. You are more than welcome. Yeah, that's pretty it. Like, I think Fartcoin's the next rotation up. In fact, I might just log into my little shitty Bybit account with my Fartcoin monies in. A little Fartcoin trades. And like even here, do you know what I mean? Like, looks like it just wants to fucking rip. Again, excuse the pun. Add fuel to the fire. Yeah, has anyone got any coins that they particularly want to go over or anything like that? Because, you know, I'm pretty much interested in Fartcoin. Obviously Desync, I still have a massive bag of that. There's stuff like OM, which I'm tempted to kind of pick up just because it's got so fucked. But at the end of the day, like, I just kind of can't justify it. You know, when when it can put in like a minus 95% candle, it feels a bit wrong to even be thinking about it. Virtual, Floki, Sol, Flog. Okay, there's loads of stuff. Sol TA. Okay. How'd you get Bybit in the UK? It seems it's banned. I can't tell you, mate. You know, Yeah, we'll just leave that bit there, yeah, shall we? Okay, so let's talk about Solana. I don't think Solana looks particularly terrible from a high time frame structure perspective, but it's kind of very similar. You know, Sol's definitely the choice for me over ETH, at least for now. Sol BTC again has been kind of down only since the start of the year, right? Let's go to the daily chart, but we are breaking those trends. You know, alts are kind of starting to outperform BTC. Like generally, there's a structure shift in terms of market structure. You know, like it's going down and now it's starting to go up. But why long Sol when you can long Farcoin? Like it's again, I'm not trying to just shill you my bags relentlessly, right? But it just seems, I don't know. Do I think Sol's gonna have the big massive run like it did again? No. You know, not particularly. Would I like it to? Absolutely. But I think that whole like huge Sol meta has kind of run. So it's hard to get excited by Solana. You know, I would rather kind of take the two extremes of the risk curve, which obviously Bitcoin is a very risky asset, but like compared to, you know, buying Coca-Cola or something. But I'd rather go for Bitcoin and like the high beta altcoins and just like ignore the mid-curve bullshit in the middle. And I feel like Sol is like mid-curve bullshit, to be honest with you. But like, I'm really happy for people who want to buy and hold Sol and, you know, make it a large part of their portfolio, blah, blah, blah. Absolutely, you know, go for it. But it's just not particularly exciting for me. So let's go through some other things. Virtuals. I did see virtual actually. A few people pointed out virtuals to me, but I just wasn't particularly interested. But some of my friends have done very, very, very well out of it. Yeah, longed basically the Pico lows down here somewhere and enjoyed a nice 2-3x off the lows. But you know, what we want to start looking for is like, okay, like one, do we want to long this? Like, and if so, how do we get on board? How do we take the next trade? Because that's what we're really interested, right? If you played it from like down here, like this consolidation range, absolutely, but beautiful, because it basically retested the trend a couple of times, and every time it just bounced. So that's perfect. That's what we want to see. Like decent strength, good market structure, like every time it touched the trend, it bounced. Lovely. Like keep your trade open for as long as you possibly can, you know, until it starts like losing structure. And it just didn't lose kind of any levels really, apart from actually here, you know, had that kind of drop from this range here, this mini range, if you were on a low time frame obviously, and then reclaimed it. But you've got this, you know, 4-hour trend kind of that it bounced from. So, and really, you'd never play a breakout from like this length of consolidation just for that, really. Do you know what I mean? You'd be trying to hold this stuff for as long as possible. But anyway, like structurally, it looks good. Like we haven't really lost anything major yet. Like in terms of momentum, there is a bit of a very janky div across there, but also oscillators like ripping. Like low time frame, looks like there's some pretty heavy selling across here. But again, all you're really looking at is like trend, consolidate, trend, consolidate, trend, and like we've got kind of similar points to the schematic I drew up of range trading, right? Like that establishes the kind of start of the range, which is backed up by this, and then eventually this, and even this, you know, you've kind of lost the upward momentum, and that's when I'd be like, right, you know, if I was intraday trading this, I'd be like, well, look, momentum's clearly starting to go down, but then as soon as you start really pushing up here, you know, you can always jump on board at the top of the range. You know, you're just minimizing your risk within the range essentially, and playing them as separate trades. But yeah, I mean, this is just a little mini range, but really nice trade if you caught it. I mean, I'd struggle to jump on board this now. Pepe, Fwog, let's have a look at some of them. I mean, Pepe, if I recall, I was using as an example where a lot of alts were at resistance back here. So I think I might have even moved this up ever so slightly. But it actually looks alright now. And if we get an ETH run, you know, Pepe again is probably something that would be better to long than Ethereum itself, purely because, you know, the rotation back to ETH memes will be the one. And, you know, if I look at it like this, as in like this is kind of a local range, you know, I'd rather be long Pepe than ETH. Let's see if that's a smart thought process. Yeah. So Pepe to ETH, running much higher. So, you know, thought process is what will outperform ETH. We're looking at Pepe USDT over ETH USDT. So Pepe gives you the better return because it's in an uptrend. Yeah, kind of understand that. You know, it's significantly better. Right, someone said about Kaz. So, Kaz is one of those weird ones that I've been chilled on stream like 100 times and I've never actually looked into it, right? Like, for me, all I see across this whole chart, which is what? Weeks, months of price action. Like, all I can see is one massive pivotal line, which is like somewhere around here. It's a bit janky because of this, but like, I'll explain my logic. And you've essentially got this level acting as kind of support all the way through here. You'd probably classify this as a deviation, support, resistance, because you know you've got the clean interactions here and maybe just about here, and a rejection there. So like, it's too late for me to join it here unless we get a really sort of decent pullback to here, which would be confluence with daily trend and this former level and support. And then you could play it up to here, but this is the big level. Like, you reclaim that, you can go full ape spot buys, and you know, hopefully the market will be looking generally decent and targeting like fresh highs like up here, basically. Because it doesn't look too weak, doesn't look too strong either. But like, this huge pivotal level has been pretty sacrilege across this entire like 1.5 year period. Very, very well respected. But what else we got? Fog. Well, Fog has been, you know, a big sack of shit for a long time. But yes, it is having a nice little run at the moment, as a lot of our alts are off the lows. And I'll come on to Burt in a minute as well, because that's a bag that I've round-tripped a huge amount of money on. Am I particularly bullish here? No, not really. Like, do I want to be longing into this? No, I'm a terrible continuation trader. I'm a great breakout trader. So, you know, this, like on Fartcoin, which hopefully is, you know, going to start smashing out in a minute. You know, I'm a great breakout trader with momentum, but when it comes to joining a very, very strong, like, local trend, I just struggle with it. And this is, you know, strong momentum into potential high time frame breakout, but you know, it's a trending move, it's a vertical accumulation, it's a pullback, probably into a trending move, and I'm much better when it's kind of accumulating and range bound. Asian Quant and SE pointing out Fog, yeah, they've got massive bags that they've probably round tripped. What about Kaz? We just did Kaz. You take a look on Whiff. Oh, Dog with Hat. I've not actually looked at Whiff in a long time. let me have a look at the old whiffaroo, and then we'll probably get closer to calling it a day because there's not loads that I've got. I mean, Jesus Christ. Ha! Would I have been stopped out that short? No. There was a short I did on whiff, which was like here. It was like this. And it was down to 40 cents, I think it was. That would have been absolutely hilarious if I'd have kept that open. I mean, I'd have probably paid $1 billion in funding, but you know, even keeping just $1 of it open just to flex would have been the play. But yeah, it's pretty much like every meme, right? It's just relatively weak. I don't see a reason why whiff would come back with any major strength, right? Like, all of these like little dead cat bounces are great, but really, are they going to start a fresh major trend and start ripping stuff like this? You know, I pointed out the other day, like I did a tweet about PopCat and everyone fucking went in on me about it. Because I was like, I said something like, look at what we're celebrating. We're celebrating this. And the point wasn't, oh, don't celebrate your gains, because yeah, people made some really nice gains. Like that wasn't the fucking point. The point is that like, this is what we're like, get in, this is amazing. Whereas before, you know, this is what we were doing, right? And like, let's be honest, like the Bybit spot listing was actually well above what it was on chain. So you know, you've got these like massive returns versus this, which took ages to play out. And even like on an intraday basis, right? Like you look at this little move here. Like on an intraday basis, like it moves, you know, 200% in like a couple of days. You know what I mean? This is like weeks. My point was the momentum of this move is very different to like these. So, yeah. Enough of that. What's about Foxy? No. Loki? No. At some point, Seapool? Oh, I had a bag of it, Seapool. I'm not even sure if I still got that. I might have dumped it. How rude. I mean, Seapool's one of those ones where it had a lovely run, and now it's back to obliteration. And there's actually some nice projects like this, and Palm, and a few other ones. And like Desync, actually, like, you know, you look at a lot of them. And again, for me, like, I will always say the same thing, right? Even if I've got a bag of this somewhere, which I think I might do, actually. You know, I wouldn't personally, like, unless I really love the project and I really want it, I was a big fan of the tech, I could see how it fits into the meta coming up. You know, I don't want to be accumulating here. You know, that's just not my style. I mean, I did it way back in 2018 with Rune and stuff like that. Like, and obviously it wasn't like this. It was just, it was all new chart. There was like nothing happening. It was probably about $10,000 a daily liquidity or something, or daily volume. But like the opportunity cost of something breaking out and you missing that, i.e. Fartcoin, is just too big in my opinion. Like, it's a rotators market. It's not something where everyone's just going to get rewarded. And asset selection really is a key differentiator as to how well your portfolio is going to do, and it always has been, right? But it used to be the difference between a 20x portfolio and a 10x portfolio. Now it's probably going to be the difference between like a 10x or 5x portfolio and basically breaking even. You know, it's not going to be every time. You know, the 2017 bull market returns are up here. 2021 was actually, 2021 was probably up here as well. 2023, 24 is probably down here, and then the next time we really run it back turbo, it's probably going to be even harder. More tokens, more limited risk, you know, more spread out liquidity. Like, tough, far tougher. I think maybe it's just my old age, but 2017 I knew fucking everything about every coin. 2021 I knew a lot about a lot. 2023, 24, so much got by me, so much. But anyway, yeah, you know, a reclaim of this, and you're good to go. Like, this is simply how I try and see the market of like, where do I want to be bullish? You break out, it'll start a trending move, because markets typically, you know, have kind of four phases. You know, accumulation, move up, distribution, move down. in whatever guise that takes. You know, sometimes that's a lot lower, and you've got that bearish market structure, whatever. But yeah, that's how I try to think of it. And like, do I really want to position myself in this? Unless I've got a real big bet on the particular project or this particular sector, then no, not really. That makes sense? At some point, did the ETH bulls get to be correct even for a little bit? Not really. Do you think there could be a Monday's rain play on Bitcoin if it sweeps the Monday high? Yeah, I don't really trade like that, mate. That's kind of what I was saying at the start. Like, I don't give a shit about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, it's whatever. All I care about is price and where it went, not the kind of how and why and where. I care a little bit about the why. That's a lie. But yeah, not what day of the week it is. One or two more questions and then we'll rock and roll. Okay, so Housecoin. I mean, I did see like the Cabal shilling it, and I didn't get my free 1%, so I will not be shilling it. But you know, it's kind of Scamoose, yes. Housecoin. Fucking load or what? I mean, it's ripping, isn't it? Let's be honest. I was looking at this. I was looking at this at like the other day, because I was looking through Dex Screener or Dex Tools or whatever, and I was like, oh, it's actually like I kind of get the narrative because people are poor in terms of like being able to buy houses, because we're looking at moving houses and it's just fucking ridiculous, right? What they want for what the actual house is. It's genuinely just mental, but anyway. That aside, it's kind of like, yeah, this is a problem that's probably going to be facing my daughter. But obviously, well, maybe not her, but you know, if she was on her own and didn't have me and my wife, like, she would struggle to get a house. Her generation is going to struggle massively to get a house. I don't know why this is being a bitch, but whatever. Don't know if it's actually on any sexes or anything. Yeah. But obviously I didn't buy any of this. I've bought some utter shit lately. I bought, like, what was it? Someone gave me the heads up while I was on holiday about, was it Footcoin or something? Because Buttcoin and Titcoin were all the rage, and I was like, alright, buy me this amount's worth. I think that's probably at 0 now. I bought another coin today, actually, which was sub 500k market cap, but I thought the ticker was hilarious, so yeah, I bought a couple of % of the supply, and we'll see what happens with that. I mean, you know, with any of these coins, it's like I haven't looked at holders or anything like that. You know, supply split across various wallets. Yeah, try and keep it above 1%, around 1%. Nice. You know, I haven't done any due diligence on this, but the meta and the narrative is a good one. I'm not gonna lie. And the fact that it's got a lot of like big people supporting it makes sense. So it'll probably run for a bit, and then you'll come back and it'll be like all the other shit, and it'll just be like, what was that? You know, Cabal mass extraction again. So with these, very much risk what you can afford to lose. I think where I would always buy these is, you know, in there somewhere. Yeah, accumulation, not just straight after breakout. And even on this, like this range, you know, broken out of this range. And I don't want to FUD it, because this is probably some people's bags, and you get very upset when you kind of FUD their bags and stuff. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. It's like, I wouldn't be aping on-chain range breakouts, purely because, you know, it looks like Cabal are just stepping and fucking chunking this down. Yeah, buying consolidations on like on-chain shitcoins is probably my preferred, which is the opposite of how I trade perps. Chill it? No, I can't chill it, mate. Elements gets OP age, you care about that. I haven't gone over enough statistics to say yes, this happens all the time, but I am obviously aware of it. How old's my daughter? She's like 9. So she's the best trader ever. SPX POC is 6060. What, for this range? Yeah, that's pretty wild, isn't it? Yeah, everyone along in the top. SPX is an interesting chart. You know, I kind of want to go back to learning to trade TradFi, because I've kind of not given it enough time and effort, to be honest, and I feel like I need to like develop something. So maybe that's the thing. But yeah, strong sell-off after Trump tariff and all that drama into a change of structure with a nice high low. Hopefully this is kind of just trend continuation and we can kind of go back to normal. Right. Doesn't look like Filecoin's actually going to break out. Right, we're going to have to go to the timeline to drum up some exit liquidity. If we do it like this, make it look like it's broken out. See? Move the level down a bit. Everyone wants to long that. Yeah, fresh. Yeah. I think that's kind of it for me. There's not really many other coins that I'm like, oh, what the fuck is that? Again, like, this is what I mean, like, coins that are breaking down trends. I want to put Bizig here, not particularly resistance, but reclaim it, because I've obviously missed the breaking down trend move. Breaking down trend, range high. Oh, Hype, you did ask me about Hype. So Hype is one where I think I'm going to actually exit my position. So I think I've told you, I entered here at 17.3. I ate a 46% drawdown, and now I'm like 11% up on it. So I am the greatest trader of all time. You know, the 11% returns. Thank you very much. Holding it while it was down 47%. But yeah, 104% win. That's what it's about, right? Even if you have to eat massive drawdowns, it's all about the win rate. All about the win rate. No, I'm joking. It's not about the win rate at all. You should manage your risk and not be a fucking idiot. That is far more important than anything. But yeah, I think I'm gonna exit this purely because if we start looking at momentum, like, this is a nice little range, and it's obviously bounced off range lows, had a couple attempts at range highs, but my understanding is that they've got, like, there's a lot of speculation at the moment about whether there's another round and more points and all this kind of bullshit, and I imagine that that's fueling price a lot. Plus, it's not exactly relatively strong per se, so yeah, I'm probably just gonna cut for a small win. But again, I can jump back in it, push up and reclaim. It's 19.4 if I really want to, because it's a pretty strong support level. I imagine all of CT will be shilling the shit out of it again if when we do reclaim it. So cool. I think that's probably it. That's probably it for today. Thank you all for tuning in, as usual. It's much appreciated. Maybe not. Maybe Filecoin is just going to keep running. Leave us all sidelined on the streets, as it were. Yeah. If you've enjoyed the content, obviously hit subscribe and like the video and all that kind of wonderful stuff. And I will see you next week for a wonderful stream with all you wonderful people. And if not, I'll see you in the Paragon group, or I'll see you on Twitter. Au revoir.